I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 26, full of life and not a care in the world, hanging out with a couple of friends at a local bar. That's when Alex walked in. He was a friend of a friend, someone I'd never met before. The moment our eyes met, something clicked. It wasn't love at first sight or anything cheesy like that, but there was a definite spark. "Hey, you must be the famous Alex I've heard so much about," I said, extending my hand with a playful grin. "Famous, huh? Can't say the same about you, but I'm sure I'll remember you after tonight," he shot back, shaking my hand with a firm grip. His smirk was cocky, but there was a twinkle in his eye that made me laugh. We spent the rest of the night talking, joking around, and getting to know each other. It wasn't just the booze talking, we genuinely clicked. Our friends noticed too, nudging each other and giving us knowing looks. "So, what do you do, Erica?" Alex asked, sipping his beer. "I'm stuck in an office job for now. Dreaming of bigger things, though. What about you?" I replied, rolling my eyes at my own situation. "I work in sales. It's alright, pays the bills. But like you, I've got bigger plans," he said with a shrug, as if it wasn't a big deal. The night flew by, and before I knew it, it was time to head home. Alex offered to walk me to my car, a gentlemanly gesture that surprised me given his earlier cockiness. "Hey, I had a really good time tonight. Can I see you again?" he asked, almost hesitantly, as we reached my car. I smiled, feeling the butterflies in my stomach. "I'd like that. But only if you promise to tone down the cockiness a bit." He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Deal. But you've got to promise to keep up with my witty banter." "Deal," I said, shaking his hand again. This time, it felt like an agreement on more than just another meetup. It felt like the beginning of something special. We exchanged numbers, and I drove home with a silly grin plastered on my face. I couldn't stop thinking about him. There was something about Alex that felt right, like a puzzle piece I didn't know was missing. Over the next few days, we texted nonstop. Our conversations were filled with jokes, teasing, and getting to know each other on a deeper level. It was refreshing to meet someone who could match my sass and not get offended. A week later, we went on our first official date. It was nothing fancy, just dinner at a local diner, but it was perfect. We talked about everything and nothing, from our dreams and ambitions to our favorite TV shows. "You know, I never thought I'd meet someone like you in a place like this," Alex said, his tone serious for once. "Yeah? What's that supposed to mean?" I teased, raising an eyebrow. "It means, I'm glad I came to that bar that night. I'm glad I met you," he said, reaching across the table to take my hand. I felt a warmth spread through me. "Me too, Alex. Me too." That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but feel like my life was about to change. Little did I know just how much it would. Meeting Alex was the start of a journey, one that would bring laughter, tears, and challenges. But at that moment, all I knew was that I had met someone special, someone who could potentially be my partner in crime, my confidant, my friend. And maybe, just maybe, something more. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions and excitement. Every text, every call, every date felt like a step closer to something undefined but undoubtedly special. Alex was different from anyone I'd ever met. He was real, raw, and refreshingly honest. He didn't put up a front or try to impress me with grand gestures. He was just himself, and that was more than enough. Our banter was endless, and it was during these moments of playful disagreement that I found myself falling for him. It wasn't just about the laughter and the jokes, it was the comfort and ease I felt around him. I could be my true self, and he not only accepted that, he embraced it. As the weeks turned into months, our connection deepened. We shared our dreams, our pasts, and our hopes for the future. Alex became not just a significant part of my life, but a part of me. I couldn't imagine my days without him, without our talks, without his presence. And so, a year after that fateful meeting at the bar, we made a decision that would forever change our lives. we decided to get married. It wasn't a decision we took lightly, but one that felt natural, like the next step in our journey together. Life took a turn when Emma was born. I stepped into the role of a stay-at-home mom with open arms, a decision Alex and I agreed upon. But as the days turned into months, and months into years, I noticed a shift in Alex. The man I fell in love with, who used to make me laugh until my sides hurt, was fading away, replaced by someone I hardly recognized. "Another day, another mess, Erica," Alex muttered, stepping over toys scattered across the living room floor after a long day at work. His tone, once filled with warmth, now dripped with disdain. I looked up from where I was sitting, trying to sort through bills and manage our household finances, a task that had become increasingly challenging. "Emma's just being a kid, Alex." "I'll clean it up in a bit," I said, attempting to keep the peace. "Maybe if you did more around here, I wouldn't come back to a pigsty every evening," he snapped, his frustration evident. His words stung. I spent my days chasing after our energetic 5-year-old, trying to keep our home in order, and yet, it was never enough. "I'm doing the best I can," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper, the fight draining out of me. "Your best? That's a laugh. Look at you, what do you even do all day?" Alex scoffed, his gaze scanning over me in a way that made me shrink back. I bit my lip, fighting back tears. This wasn't the Alex I knew. "I take care of our daughter, our home." "I'm trying, Alex." He shook his head, disappointment etched across his face. "Trying? You call this trying? You've let yourself go, and this place, it's a mess. I work all day, and I come back to this." I wanted to scream, to argue, to defend myself, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I turned my attention back to the bills, a lump in my throat. Silence filled the room, the tension thick. The next morning, I tried to shake off the hurt from our conversation. Emma needed me, and I refused to let Alex's harsh words dampen my spirits in front of her. We were in the kitchen, her laughter filling the space as I made pancakes, a temporary reprieve from the tension. "You're the best, Mommy," Emma said, her smile bright and genuine. I ruffled her hair, grateful for her innocent joy. "Thanks, sweetie. You make everything better." But the brief moment of happiness was shattered when Alex walked in, his expression sour. "Pancakes on a weekday? What are you trying to do, spoil her? And make us all late?" I sighed, bracing myself for another argument. "It's just pancakes, Alex. It won't hurt." He grabbed a coffee, his eyes rolling. "Whatever. Just make sure she's ready on time. I don't need to be late because of your little cooking show." As he left the room, Emma's smile faded, replaced by confusion. "Daddy's mad again?" I forced a smile, not wanting her to worry. "Daddy's just tired, honey. Eat your pancakes, okay?" The day Alex announced his business trip felt like a reprieve, a chance to breathe without walking on eggshells. But even that was marred by his parting words. "Keep the house clean while I'm gone. And try not to waste all my money," he said, suitcase in hand, not even bothering to look at me. "I'll manage," I replied, my voice steady, despite the turmoil inside. "We'll be fine." He shrugged, indifferent. "Yeah, well, we'll see about that." Watching him leave, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. This wasn't the life I envisioned when we said "I do." The love, the partnership, it all seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by resentment and misunderstandings. In a house filled with tension and cold silences, I found my old brushes and paints one day, buried under years of neglected dreams. It felt like a lifetime ago since I last held them in my hands, back when I was a bright-eyed girl at the art studio, with my teacher telling me I had a future in painting. But life, as it often does, took me down a different path. I studied economics, a practical choice, and my canvases gathered dust. Painting again felt like a breath of fresh air, a momentary escape from the endless cycle of chores and Alex's growing indifference. Each stroke on the canvas was a whisper of the person I used to be, someone who had dreams and aspirations beyond these four walls. "Really, Erica? Painting? What are you, 12? Alex's voice cut through my moment of peace one evening as he caught me setting up my easel in the living room. His parents were visiting, and they all stood there, staring at my setup like it was a joke. I bit my lip, feeling the familiar sting of embarrassment. I used to love painting, I managed to say, trying to defend my old passion. His mother snorted, looking over my shoulder at the half-finished canvas. Looks like a child's work. Wouldn't it be better if you did something useful instead? Alex joined in with a cruel laugh. Yeah, like maybe getting a job instead of wasting money on this nonsense. I felt my face flush with shame, the joy of painting souring in my mouth. I thought it might be nice to have something of my own. I whispered, more to myself than to them. Of your own? With what money? You're spending my hard-earned cash on this garbage? Alex's tone was sharp, his words like daggers. I use my savings, I replied quietly, my defense weak against his growing anger. Savings? What savings? From before we married? That's cute. Listen, because of your little hobby, I'm going to have to cut the budget around here. Can't have you blowing through my salary on your art, he said, the last word dripping with disdain. His parents nodded in agreement, their looks of disapproval etching deeper into my heart. I wanted to scream, to argue that it was my money too, that I had every right to find some joy in my life. But the words died in my throat, the fight drained out of me by years of being belittled and dismissed. From that day on, I kept my painting to myself, a secret refuge from the storms outside. I bought my supplies with what little money I could squirrel away, each canvas and tube of paint a tiny rebellion against the life I felt trapped in. Painting became my silent protest, my way of holding on to the parts of me that still dreamed of something more. The tension in the house could cut through steel when Alex's parents showed up. They never missed a chance to point out everything they thought I was doing wrong. Can't you even make a decent cup of coffee? His dad grumbled as I handed him a mug. I forced a smile, trying not to let the comment get to me. His mom wasn't any kinder. This breakfast, you call this special? Back in my day, we knew how to treat guests. Her nose turned up at the eggs and bacon I'd spent the last hour preparing. I bit my tongue, keeping the retort that was dancing on its tip at bay. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'll try to do better, I mumbled, feeling anything but sorry. As if on cue, Alex called. I excused myself, hoping for a brief escape from the criticism. But the call wasn't the respite I hoped for. Listen, I need you to get something for my boss's wife. Her birthday is coming up. Alex's voice was brisk, all business. I blinked, taken aback. Alex, I don't really have the budget for her. I don't want to hear it. Figure it out. It's important. He cut me off, his tone final. And with that, he hung up. I stared at the phone, stunned. Solve it myself? With what? Magic? Frustration bubbled up, but it was quickly overshadowed by worry. I couldn't mess this up. Not for Alex. In desperation, I turned to the internet, scrolling through the boss's wife's social media for any hint of a suitable gift. That's when I stumbled upon her interest in painting and support for aspiring artists. It was a light bulb moment. I couldn't afford a fancy gift, but maybe, just maybe, I could create something personal. Something meaningful. I decided right then, I'd paint her something. It felt like a solid plan, but I kept it to myself. Alex was already on edge, and I didn't need his scoffing or doubts. No, this would be my secret project. A chance to prove, if only to myself, that I could contribute something valuable. That I was more than the freeloader his parents saw or the inadequate wife Alex seemed to think I was. During that week, my apartment turned into a mini art studio. I was focused on creating something beautiful, something that would stand out. Beside me, I set up a tiny easel for Emma, my daughter, who was thrilled to join in. She decided to draw a portrait of me, her concentration face on, tongue poking out slightly as she worked. It was a mess of colors, but to me, it was perfect. Alex was away, wrapped up in his work, clueless about the plan brewing back home. When he finally called, it was just to confirm that we'd meet at his boss's wife's birthday bash. Make sure you dress nicely, he added, as if I needed reminding. Yeah, got it, I replied, my mind already racing through my wardrobe for the right outfit. It wasn't just about looking good, it was about feeling confident, something I hadn't felt in a while. The day of the party arrived quickly. I stood in front of the mirror, slipping into a dress that made me feel like myself again. It had been so long since I dressed up for anything. Emma watched, her eyes wide. "Mommy, you look like a princess," she exclaimed. I laughed, bending down to give her a hug. "Thank you, sweetie. Mommy has to go now, but I'll be back soon, okay?" Emma nodded, clutching the portrait she made of me. "Good luck, Mommy. Give your painting to the lady." With a deep breath, I grabbed my painting, now beautifully wrapped, and headed out. The drive to the mansion was a blur of nerves and anticipation. As I parked and stepped out, the enormity of the house hit me. It was more like a palace, with lights illuminating the grand architecture. I paused at the entrance, taking a moment to gather my courage. Inside, the sounds of laughter and music floated out, a world so different from my own. It wasn't just about giving a gift anymore, it was about proving to myself that I could stand tall in this crowd, that I was more than just Alex's wife or a stay-at-home mom. With a final deep breath, I stepped inside, my head held high, ready to face whatever came my way. This was it, the moment of truth. I was ready to join this society, to show them and myself what I was capable of. Stepping into the grandiose hall of the boss's mansion, the chandeliers overhead and the murmur of high society filled the air. I hadn't taken 2 steps before Alex found me, his eyes scanning me up and down with a frown. "What are you wearing, Erica? Look around you, do you see anyone else dressed like that? You stick out like a sore thumb," he hissed, not even bothering to hide his disappointment. I glanced around, noticing the elegant dresses and perfectly coiffed hair of the other women. I felt out of place, my confidence wavering under his critical gaze. "I thought I looked okay," I muttered, feeling small. Before I could defend myself further, he noticed the wrapped canvas under my arm. "Don't tell me that's what I think it is. You didn't." I nodded, clutching the painting a bit tighter. "It's a gift for your boss's wife. I thought she'd like it." Alex's face turned red, his anger palpable. "You thought? Are you a fool? This is a disaster. You're going to embarrass me in front of everyone with your amateur art." His words stung, but before I could respond, his loud complaints caught the attention of the very people we were talking about. The boss and his wife approached, curiosity and concern mixing on their faces. "What's all this about, Alex?" his boss asked, eyebrows raised. Alex, trying to regain composure, forced a laugh. "Oh, nothing much. My wife here thought it'd be a good idea to gift your wife one of her paintings. I tried to tell her it's not appropriate, but you know how it is." The guests around us snickered, their eyes on me, waiting to see my next move. The boss's wife, however, seemed intrigued. "I'd love to see it. I appreciate all forms of art," she said, her voice kind and encouraging. With trembling hands, I unwrapped the painting, revealing my work. The room fell silent as everyone waited for her reaction. The boss's wife studied the painting, her eyes moving over every detail. Then, her face broke into a genuine smile. "This is wonderful. Truly, you have a gift. How thoughtful of you to create something so personal." Alex's mouth hung open, his earlier bravado gone. The guests, too, were taken aback, their laughter dying down as they realized their mistake. I'm glad you like it," I stammered, a mix of relief and pride washing over me. The boss clapped Alex on the back, a knowing look in his eyes. "Looks like your wife knows how to make an impression, Alex. Well done." As the crowd dispersed, some throwing me impressed looks, Alex stood there, his earlier criticisms unspoken now. The boss's wife, intrigued by my unexpected gift, led me away from the bustling party to a quieter part of the mansion. The walls of this secluded room were adorned with an impressive array of paintings, each telling its own story. As we moved from one piece to the next, our conversation flowed effortlessly, delving into techniques, styles, and the stories behind the canvases. "I'm quite surprised," she admitted, her eyes reflecting genuine interest. "You understand art deeply, Erica. Ever thought of organizing your own exhibition?" Her question caught me off guard, sending waves of embarrassment and excitement through me. "Me? An exhibition? I wouldn't even know where to start," I stammered, the idea seeming as distant as the stars. It was then Alex found us, his timing as impeccable as ever. Overhearing the tail end of our conversation, he laughed, the sound harsh and unwelcome. "An exhibition? For what? Her kitty scribbles? Come on, let's go home. This party's over for us." The boss's wife's expression shifted from warm to cold in an instant, clearly not pleased with Alex's interruption or his demeaning words. I felt a rush of embarrassment, but also a spark of defiance. For once, I wasn't going to let his words dictate how I felt about myself or my art. "No, Alex," I said, my voice steady, stronger than I felt. "I'm not going home. Not yet. I want to explore this idea, my own exhibition." His face turned a shade of red I hadn't seen before, his eyes wide in disbelief. Without another word, he stormed off, leaving a trail of awkward silence behind him. The drive home later that night was a battle between elation and dread. I had stood up for myself, but at what cost? As soon as I stepped through the door, Alex was there, his anger boiling over. "You've embarrassed me. In front of my boss, my colleagues. What were you thinking?" he yelled, pacing back and forth. I took a deep breath, my decision made in the clarity of his tirade. "I was thinking about my future, Alex. A future where I'm more than just your wife, more than a housekeeper. If that embarrasses you, then maybe we shouldn't be together." His ranting stopped, his face a mix of confusion and shock. "What are you saying? You want a divorce? Over some stupid paintings?" "Yes, Alex. A divorce," I said, the words feeling surreal even as they left my mouth. "I can't live like this anymore. Being belittled, feeling trapped. I want more from life, and if that means without you, then so be it." The silence that followed was deafening. Alex stood there, staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. The man who had left in a huff at the party was now the one in shock, unsure of what to do next. After deciding to divorce Alex, I braced myself for a storm, but nothing could have prepared me for the hurricane that ensued. The divorce was messy, to say the least. Alex turned it into a battlefield, contesting every single detail. He didn't want to part with a penny, especially when it came to alimony for Emma, our daughter. He even tried to keep most of our shared assets, leaving me to fight tooth and nail for what was rightfully half mine. The whole debacle wasn't just confined to family and close friends, it spilled over into Alex's professional life. His colleagues and even his boss caught wind of his less than stellar behavior during our divorce. The man who prided himself on his impeccable reputation at work saw it tarnished. Before long, whispers of his pettiness and vindictiveness led to his demotion. It was a steep fall from grace for someone who had always put his career above everything else. In the midst of this turmoil, an unexpected ally emerged, Alex's boss's wife. She fulfilled her promise and organized my first personal exhibition. It was an opportunity one never dreamed of, a silver lining in the dark cloud that had loomed over my life. With her guidance and support, my paintings found an audience. People were drawn to my work, seeing stories and emotions in my brushstrokes. I held several solo exhibitions, each more successful than the last. My paintings began to sell, not just to friends and acquaintances, but to strangers who felt a connection to my art. The money I earned from my paintings allowed Emma and me to move into a nice apartment, a place we could call our own. It was a fresh start, a chance to rebuild our lives on our terms. Looking back, I never imagined my life taking such a turn. The pain of the divorce and the ugliness that came with it seemed insurmountable at the time. But through it all, I discovered my strength, my passion, and my ability to stand on my own. As I sit in our new living room, surrounded by canvases and paint, I can't help but feel optimistic about the future. For the first time in a long time, I'm excited about what lies ahead. Emma, now thriving in a happier, healthier environment, is my constant reminder that we made it through the storm.